Fangs and Infernos, we have returned to our respective layers, our bat cave, the depths of hell, and we have such sights to show you and such conversations to be had based off of our most recent adventure. As you know, myself and our beloved devil, who as of the recording of this is celebrating his birthday. What are you, about 5,000 now at this time?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. You lose count after the first millennial.
After the first millennium, absolutely, my friend. But of course, all of you beloved Fangs and Infernos know that we are very partial to New Jersey Horror Con. So first and foremost, as always, thank you to Ryan for having us back out again and showing such amazing support immediately as we were building this show. But New Jersey Horror Con, Devil, my friend, in a brand new location of which you and I got to take advantage of actually being in, which made a much more overall easier experience where Mrs. Devil, Mrs. Vamp could go and put their feet up for a little bit. You and I could take a little break if we felt the need to, but it was very nice actually having our hotel room in the venue of a con.
Yeah. It was like I said, especially most cons, a lot of times are typically in hotels, but with at least for our experience of the New Jersey Horror Con, I know they've been doing it for years and years and years in the Atlantic City and the Showboat, so they've obviously done the hotel thing for years, but. When we started getting on the New Jersey Horror Con train, we've only been there for the one at Edison at the convention center, so we're more used to that big open space, which is nice. I there's always I've always like there's always love and there's always hate for for shows at conventions. Like I love, I understand like the appeal of doing them at a hotel because it's more convenient. Like you said, you can just go up to your room, you can come, you don't have to travel, you don't have to do anything. But unfortunately, with hotels, most of the time your space isn't as nice and openly free as as a convention center. Which one thing that we definitely saw at this one was the vending area was tight. I mean, if you were, I mean, not just going through it. I mean, even like I said, you stop and you look at a vendor. It's almost impossible for anybody to go through you to try to get through where they need to be, and it's
Like the
just like it.
hallway version.
Yeah, the hallway was just, and then like I said, it's just for anybody who who has ADHD or sensory problems and stuff like that. It's a lot to look at one time. It's
Yeah.
so busy. It's like it's like watching watching a circus of clowns with clowns all around everywhere, and you're not sure where you're focusing on, which clown you're supposed to be paying attention to, because these clowns over here are doing juggling, and this clown over here is doing fire, and one over here is doing something else, and it's like it's just too much to see at one time. It's nicer to have one clown just do one thing at a time, and
Yeah.
that's what it kind of reminds me of, like at those. But I mean, that's the nature of the beast when like I said, when you go to these conventions and they have there are hotels, you know what I mean, you obviously you're trying to get as many vendors out as you can and stuff like that, try to do that because the vendors kind of help support the the cause for that. I mean obviously because the vendors have to pay to to come, so that's what helps the people who are promoting the to the con to get the names and stuff like that. So it's like I get it, you want to have a lot of vendors, and like I said, when we've gone to Edison, they had that big huge open space of vendors. And then, I mean, I don't know exactly the numbers, but let's just say that there were the same amount of vendors there for this con as there was New Jersey Horror Con, other ones. It just because of that big open space, it was a lot easier to kind of travel when you were at the Edison place versus
Yeah.
that smaller room. But I mean, like I said, that's like I said, that's the nature of the beast when it comes to doing these cons like that. And it was kind of cool, you know what I mean? You had that, in there you had a little bit of area where, in the vending area you had like Lita Ford was in that area, so we got to see Lita Ford again and talk to her. I gave her the photo of the ladies, when we saw her at M3 a couple years ago. So
Yeah.
I gave her one of those photos. So I was like, she's like, "Oh, you want me to sign?" I'm like, "No, this one's for you." And she's like, "Oh, Cool, thank you. So that was kind of cool. In that little vending area, we also had, someone we just recently saw like 3 weeks before that with Steve Brown and Trickster. So we
Yeah,
got to talk to him, and we did a little interview with him. So that was cool. And then right next to him, we talked to Andrew, and he was pretty cool and stuff like that. Wrestling Andrew. So we
yeah,
saw that, and like I said, that little venue, and like I said, it was pretty cool because you would go into a different hall and they'd have other vendors, and then they obviously had the big huge vending area, and then like you didn't pay attention, you turn a corridor and you're like, oh shit, there's more vendors over here, and there's more vendors over there, and even in that one back room, we were just kind of venturing in, and we saw the vendor that we're possibly we're talking about, having him on the podcast, where
yeah,
his venture was he took serial killers and tarot cards and kind of made them into this astrology thing, and it was really
yeah,
really cool guy, a really cool guy to talk to. That's going to be one where we were thinking, because like when we do these, we'd like to talk to the celebrities, we like to talk to the vendors, but I felt like with that guy, that's a conversation. It's going to be a good hour, two
yeah,
hours, so that's probably more better for a get on Zoom than to try to do that, because obviously you don't want to talk to a vendor for 2 hours, because then that's 2 hours he's probably not going to get any sales and stuff like
yeah.
that. So that's a lot, or like 2 hours less. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then like I said, then you had to kind of go in the lobby and go through the bar and go down a rabbit hole and maybe go
It
into
did feel
Satan's
like that.
lair, and it seemed like you were traveling for 45 minutes to get to the celebrity area. And like I said, I enjoyed, like I said, I enjoyed this year's. I'm like, this year's one had a lot of really cool, people, repeat people that we've seen before, adding a little extra, where the stream, Mike Levy and all of them were all there. All the stream guys were, there. They had extra people that were from the stream series that they haven't had before. So that was kind of cool to see them. There was like what, like 32 of them, I think, all
It
together,
was
because they had
crazy.
like some big huge thing. There was a lot of them though. So if you were fans of like the stream universe, that was a good one to go to, because I think that's the most, because usually, like I said, when we do the New Jersey Horror Con, they have that little room in there. We always called it the Stream Terrifier
Yeah,
room. And they usually had like 4 or 5 people, but I think this year they had like 7 or 8 people that were, or
this
even
was
more, that
for
were in
stream.
part
It was
of it.
definitely a fill your poster opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So that one was kind of cool for seeing all the fans, and I like it because obviously like Terrifier's the big thing and everybody's talking about that, but I like that people are gravitating towards towards Stream, and that Stream is getting legs in the community because it is a cool movie. I like the fact that yeah, it does have David in it from Terrifier, but it's more of the guys who help produce and help make sort of the Terrifier. It's their pet project, So it's kind of cool that people are getting love, and you see a lot of you've seen a lot of the people that were at the con, dressed up in their player costumes from the movie. So that was pretty cool and stuff like that. And like I said, you had some other kind of bigger ones, like where you had like 3 or 4 people from the Friday the 13th Part Two with
Yeah.
Warren Gillette, and all that was kind of a reunion. You had at least, as far as I can remember, I don't think I've ever seen three Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherfaces in the same at the same con at the same time. So that was kind of cool. Where you had Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. You had the remake Texas Chainsaw, and I think it's the guy who played the Leatherface in the Leatherface movie. I think was the other third guy that
Yeah, I
they
think
had.
so. It was either Leatherface or The Beginning.
Yeah, yeah, I was trying to remember which one it was, but yeah, it's kind of cool that you have that, and then like I said, in the corner next to them, they had the Traumas. So it was cool to see all the
Woo!
Traumas that we just recently seen, and we got to talk to
Officially
them, and
V&D alumni now too.
yeah, exactly. We got lucky enough to get an interview, with all four of them together at one time. Try to make it quick and make it as quick as we could for them, obviously because they needed to get back to their, to their fans signing stuff. So that was really cool that they, that they gave us the opportunity to just talk to them and give out some love for, especially because like I said, like we said before, you see some of these reunions a lot of times and they're usually the bigger franchise reunions, like the Freddy Kruegers and the Screams and stuff like that. But it's nice to see, these the reunions for low budget, movies like Tromeo and Juliet, or like,
Yeah.
Toxic Avenger or Class of Nukem High. It's cool to see some of these to see some of those kind of reunions and come into fruition.
Absolutely. No, 100%. I mean, that was super duper great. I mean, everybody was so wonderful. Mark, Mitch, Jennifer, Cindy, they were all super duper cordial. And Mrs. Vamp was really excited about that because she wasn't able to partake with us of a previous con that we went to that had the trauma people there as well. And she was a little bummed. She was like, I want to meet some trauma people. I was like, oh, you'll get your chance. So it was definitely awesome for New Jersey Horror Con to get here so she could meet the Toxic Avenger people, and they were really, really awesome to her. Also, shout out to previous V&D alumni, but also just people that have become, dear friends as well, as we inducted two brand new celebrity RIPs into the Vampire and Devil podcast family with Felissa Rose and Nick Greystone. So that was super duper awesome to give them their laminates, and they really loved it, and they were rocking those things. So that was super duper awesome because Nick is so great, and Zozo, his daughter, is awesome, and Nick fitted us both out with a whole new wardrobe. So that was super duper awesome, and he actually took care of Mrs. Vamp as well, which was super duper cool. But also, yeah, I loved the idea of the whole kind of stream thing that's becoming very New Jersey HorrorCon because while you've got Terrifier, which is of course Damien Leone's project, featuring like Mike and Jason Levy and everybody. You've got the Stream franchise, which is Michael and Jason Levy's and those people's thing, where of course they're all on each other's speed dial, and that's why you see a lot of faces that intertwine, obviously Art the Clown in Stream, the Serial Kid in Stream. But very, very cool that they were able to get Tim Curry involved in the first one, and the more recent announcement that Stream 2 is going to have Tim back and in an expanded role. So that's really, really exciting to see that, even in a little bit of a fragile state, that Tim Curry is still able to fix us up and fix up the fans with, more Tim Curry opportunities to see him perform and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really, really cool. Um, yeah, when it came to just this was one of those things as far as like merchandising, like autographing for like, for like me, for example, it was more some casual repeats because like just things I'd stumbled across or forgotten about that I was like, that would bring me joy. That's something I would like. Like them bringing back John Russo was very, very cool. Because, of course, as a huge fanatic for Return of the Living Dead, the first time they brought him in, I'm running to him with my, Return of the Living Dead DVD, which already has almost all of the punks on there, but it also has, Tarman and everything. It's already definitely got a good amount of signatures on it. But I was like, oh man, but this is the writer, actually the guy of Return of the Living Dead. I need to get him. And of course, John's up in years. And then from the time that we met John up until the time that I moved, when I'm rearranging, artwork and stuff from my apartment to my home, is when I realized that, I always had this, quality size poster that the late George Romero had given me when I met him, and he signed it, and I had it hanging, and it went from a wall in my hallway to right above my desk here in my office. And I remember looking up at it, and I forgot or just never realized that John's name is also prominently featured on there. And I was like, damn, that's a missed opportunity because having George and John on the same piece of memorabilia, isn't something that a lot of people can get. Like nobody can do it now unless you've already got George like I did. And John definitely gets out there, but not in a super regularity. Like when John was brought in last time, that was the first time that I could really remember seeing John Russo coming to a con um, that we were going to. And so that was just very, very cool to get, a second little bite at that apple. I know that for Mrs. Vamp, she was very, very stoked to finally like officially meet Bill Moseley. And while we know that Bill is a super frequent when it comes to the con circuit, she was really, really excited to get to meet him officially. She was feeling under the weather her last opportunity. She just kind of hung in the back because she didn't want to give a bad first impression. But being the big Repo, the genetic opera fan that she is and that we are, she chose this Luigi photo to get him to sign. And I just figured, hey, what the hell? You and I recently had met the grave robber. And I was like, I can't have the grave robber on my DVD all lonely. So I was like, you know what? Let me get Bill on there one more time. So that was really, really cool. And a big just overall heavy hitter for the whole weekend that Mrs. Devil was involved in is she got to get her kiss on with the great Peter Criss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the highlight. I would definitely say we even not even coming from our words, it was coming from Joey Casada's words that the drummer that we all know and love and stuff like that. We got the interview with him, so you're about to check that one out when it pops up on this and pops out for his thing. But he even said, the big heavy hitter for that weekend was the Peter Criss, and I believe just seeing all the people that were there Friday and Saturday with all their Kiss memorabilia. Every time you go up to our room, it would stop at level 2, and it was just a line constantly all the time. Everybody with their Kiss gear and stuff like that. So she was super excited, especially because like I said, not only being like I said, her being a huge Kiss fan, with us, just recently losing, Ace Frehley, it's and Peter and that, his health and his age getting up there, the opportunities of probably getting to meet him are definitely dwindling down. You're not going to see him that often, so that was really really cool. And yeah, yeah, it was a really cool experience. She said that like he was super super nice. Obviously because of his health and stuff like that, they made you wear a mask real quick when you were meeting him to get autographs and stuff like that, which was cool. And like I said, I mean, he just, he's had some health issues. Like I said, he's up there in age. And I thought that was really cool. The for the photo op, the social distancing, instead of having like you stand 9 feet away from him or have a barrier or whatever like that, they decided to just have him behind the drum kit and you in front of the drum kit, which I think is the coolest idea ever. I mean, that's the best way
Yeah.
to like social distance, keep people away from you as far as for your health wise, but not make it look like it's impersonal and stuff like that. So I'm like, shit. Even
Not
if the
have your
guy
face.
was in good health, I would rather have that. That's the cooler photo to have because I've seen him at cons, years ago and more recently where, even if he wasn't doing a mask, you're kind of just even if it's not even any social distancing, it's usually just a picture of you, just kind of him standing there and just go like that. I think that's a way cooler photo
Yeah.
op just to have the drum, it's like, the drum kits. And then like I said, and then adding into that, the Kiss rock and roll experience that they had, that we also got to see we got to see Trip, with
Yes.
James DeBar, and we got to see, Edward Furlong, some Hawk. We got to see some rock and roll,
Detroit Rock
get
City.
to go around it. The Detroit Rock City. It was kind of funny at one point. We're up there in the second level, which we just called the Kiss level because they had they obviously had everybody that was related to Kiss. They had the photographer that was with Kiss's photographer for years. They had the Kiss Army warehouse people up there selling their shirts and their cool Kiss memorabilia and stuff like that. So we just called that second area the Kiss area. At one point when we were talking, James walked right by us, and I was like, "Hey kid, give me your Kiss tickets." Yeah, I mean, so that was pretty cool. It was pretty, funny. Like when we first walked up to James at the con, he is, hey man, what's going on? Obviously because he's a V&D alumni and stuff like that. He's like, not much. When I'm in New Jersey, I usually, if I got chill time, I'm looking he's looking at houses and shit like that. I'm like, that's just funny. He's like, yeah, when you're in New Jersey, that's what you do. You look at
Real estate.
housing, real estate and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool to see, both of them. And like I said, we also got the interview with Edward Furlong, which was really, really great. And we got to talk to him about stuff. And that was, we had a, when you watch it, we have a really good conversation about a movie that I love, Brain Scan, and he lit up about that. Probably, because like I said, obviously when he was there, especially the Friday and Saturday that he was there, I can guarantee he probably signed 99.9% of the time was Detroit Rock City stuff because of,
And
because
Terminator.
of Kiss and because of that. But yeah, he was saying that and Terminator are obviously the big ones that, he was signing. So he was super excited to talk about, I told, obviously because he was there, him being in the John Waters film. So we talked about, that biker. But then speaking of John Waters too, we also had Tracy Lords that both Miss Vamp and Miss Devil were super excited to meet because,
Yes.
the opportunity, which was great. She's always lovely and super super nice. So that was really cool just to see her because we hadn't seen her at a con for a while. Most of the cons that typically she does are usually mostly West Coast or Midwest ones. So it was cool to finally see her on the East Coast, and she's still just a still one of the coolest people ever. Like she's just such a nice person and such a cool person to talk to. That was really great just to you know, just to go and see her again and just talk about a little bit of love for that we have for John Waters and us being from the Baltimore area. So that was kind of cool.
That was very, very cool. I gave her my Shock 'em Dead, which we talked about on a previous episode in one of our showdowns. She was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is an oldie but a goodie." Because I didn't even see any Shock 'em Dead stuff even on her table. So that was
Yeah,
really cool. So, I might have been her only Shock 'em Dead, not counting another fan that might have brought, their personal Shock 'em Dead, item for her to sign. But one of the things that was also just kind of funny because it was such a delicate thing to carry, and then I put it in a place that I thought would be safe that almost didn't become safe, but then everything was fine. But I was like, man, she signed my blade in the thickest, wettest white paint pen I think I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, this is crazy, but it looks so good. And so it was like and that was the one other advantage too, is like, because it would have been fine even if we were still at the convention center. But I've had close calls with memorabilia, like Mrs. Vamp's poster one time. Um, you never know when the wind is going to blow. So
yeah,
like it was really nice just being able to baby this DVD jacket just back up to the room to just set it like eventually I just set it just on the floor like in a corner like between the desk and a chair where I was just like this thing is just going to sit away from everything just because it was just so thick and wet and it was crazy with that kind of stuff. And but it was so cool and it looks so great because like of course myself when it comes to getting anything signed from somebody I like, if there's a opportunity of them being in a vampire anything, that's definitely going to be a thing. And the funny thing is the blade thing was a secondary thing for me because I was always going to be committed to Shock 'em Dead being such a Michelangelo Badio fan who's already on my DVD, and then having this vinyl record from one of her singles from way back in the day when she was consistently doing music were definitely things of value that I wanted. But her price was so reasonable and she was so sweet and she took great pictures. And again, Mrs. Vamp got all pin-upped out just for her photo and she was all rockered out for her photo with Lita Ford. So it was definitely a cool one for there. And also just when it comes to like people that we met, I definitely want to take a moment to meet probably the coolest person that I think that you and I have met simply for the first time in Gilbrando from Stream and from Terrifier. That guy was such a sweetheart, was really genuinely cool. So, small little backstory is this was just kind of a fun opportunity for me to just kind of walk around with my little Terrifier 2 poster just to get some like itsy bitsy autograph opportunities and stuff like that because it's pretty much been collected. I've gotten, with the exception of certain hitters from the first two movies, like the original two best friend girls, you know, the best friend girl of Sienna from the second movie, who in the third movie kept saying, pass the rice as a as a dead person, as like a corpse, and then not counting when it comes to Terrifier 3, not counting the college couple that Art killed with the chainsaw in the bathroom. Like not counting certain main players. And honestly, that's like five that I can think of out of three huge movies. Hey, that's a pretty good ratio to have like most of the world. Anyway, I see these people at the cons regularly again because Ryan is so awesome with the community for the Terrifier universe that I was like, well, I wasn't able to get Jason because we speculated that he might have hurt himself at the bar a little bit because even Michael was a little bit like, I don't know if he's going to make it for Sunday. But, having, Marcus down there, having Josh down there, having Steve Barton, um, and just having these people down there that were in Terrifier 2 or 3 in some form of a thing. Because we all met Daniel Roebuck again, and he was the
Yeah.
Santa Claus that died in Terrifier 3, so I added him to that poster. But anyway, this gentleman comes over and he's so very cool, very sharp dressed man with the gnarly big sunglasses, but really, really cool. And he's just asking me about the poster, and I recognized him from Stream, but I didn't know that he was in Terrifier 2, although I recognized his characters once he described them. And he was just very, very genuine because that is the kind of guy that I think a lot of people that do cons or a lot of some types of celebrities honestly need to aspire to be because he was curious about my poster. And then as the conversation grew, is when, there was a small amount of, hey, I'd like to be on your poster as well because he was in the movie. But everything about the way he was just bringing in the community, talking to you, me, Mrs. Devil, Mrs. Vamp, and just being so cool. I was like, no, this guy can absolutely be on my poster because you could tell he wanted to be included, but he wasn't like pushing and pushing and pushing. Because at first, as an actor, he didn't think I would want him on there because he was like, well, is this poster just producers and special effects people? I was like, no, absolutely not. Honestly, this became a new little project because I had gotten Damien, David, and Amelia on it. Well, along with Phil and Mike, because they actually gifted me this poster, because Art the Clown and Little Pale Girl were the only two people featured on this poster. It was their characters. So for a long time, it was just Damien, David, Amelia, and Mark and Phil just living on my wall. But then as I was running short of poster space on other ones and being like, well, do I really want to sacrifice more wall space? Because eventually there's going to have to be a Terrifier 4 poster. Um, I was like, dude, why don't you take advantage of this clear Terrifier 2 big ass word on this poster? And that's when I was like, yep. So, added in Felissa, and added in a bunch of other cool people. But anyway, shout out to Go Brando for just being such a genuine dude. And now I'm very, very excited for his upcoming project Succubus that he was telling us all about that he's working on getting funding for and he's acting and producing it. It's definitely going to be a cool one. But he was probably my favorite person that I met this weekend who I just had never had any kind of experience with. But I definitely thought that that was very, very cool. And again, there was just such a really cool thing. You and I got to hear some unreleased Trickster action because Steve Brown, in typical Steve Brown faction, had his guitar and a little amp and was doing some jamming. But it was definitely a cool time when it came to the celebrities. Shout out to Eileen Dietz, who was there from The Exorcist, that Mrs. Devil got to meet. And the vendors were a lot of fun. We definitely got to find some cool things, got to get our shop on. Definitely loved the Killer Cards vendor, Devil. I thought that was a super duper awesome person to meet. So that'll be fun conversations. But then we had you know, we need them to come back, and we know we're going to be in talks with them. But we had a grabber mask mishap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, overall, like I said, with that, with with the con and stuff like that, it was really cool. We were in talks of at one point doing an interview with Naomi Grossman, who was Pepper from American Horror Story. But whenever she was available, we weren't available, or when she was available. So we got her contact information, and we are gonna try to get her on there because we want to talk to her, especially with this new American Horror Story season coming out, and whether or not she may or may not be in the new season. So that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, that was kind of neat. I like the fact that they had, like I said, not only they've had them before with the Back to the Future DeLorean and the Jeep, but they also added, the mayor's van and
Yeah.
the car, the car from the prom and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. And then, obviously they had the two, the one girl who was the barn that he ran into, and then Spike from Back to the Future 2 was there and stuff like that. That was pretty cool and stuff like that. Yeah, but like I said, overall, like I said, I like it. I've always enjoyed the spread and the people that you get at New Jersey Horror Con, because they always bring in like those guests and stuff like that are really, really cool. Like you said, that Gil Brando guy was like just like a super nice guy to talk to, and somebody that was just like cool to meet. And like I said, it's always nice to see some of the faces that we've seen like millions of times and stuff like that, with like your brethren and Damien, or Don almost said Damien, not Damien.
Lord Damien.
Lord Damien.
We saw Father Evil
Father
walking around.
Evil, yeah, or as Lita Ford kept on calling him Doctor Evil for some
Dr.
reason.
Evil.
It's
So
because she hadn't
hilarious.
had her coffee yet. She's like, "Why am I calling this guy Doctor Evil?" Yeah,
Then they also had Mrs. Vamp is all over this, and you might know, but I forget the official name, but we saw what we believe to be, Lord Baphomet, and or,
yeah,
or Mr. Baphomet, however he goes for it. But it was a full-on white version, which I'd actually
yeah,
never seen before. I'd only been very, very, because I'd seen him around Salem, I'd seen him at plenty of cons, but it was always, the black version of the Baphomet with the black robe and the red sash and everything. And we to see this like, you know, full on just whited out Baphomet, I thought was very, very cool because I'd never seen that before. And a shout out too to an amazing cosplayer that Mrs. Vamp got a photo with, did probably the best Jack Nicholson Joker that I think I've ever seen. Really, really well done. His girlfriend or wife or friend was dressed up as one of the goons playing the Prince, song from when they destroyed the art museum. So that was really cool.
yeah,
And then he came back down later as Maurice from Little Monsters, which I thought was just killer. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
that was so good. That was definitely my photo missed opportunity because I love Joker. I've always been a huge fan of the Joker, but for some reason, I don't tend to gravitate to cosplayers as Jokers. Not out of disrespect. It's just for some reason I'm not really wired that way. But no, that was a missed opportunity because I'm a super fan for Little Monsters, and I was like, nah, yeah, yeah, Vamp, you f that one up, dude. Like that would have been a cool photo to take. All right, we saw that. I saw that Nick Greystone got one, and I was like, good man. So that was definitely a cool one for sure when it came to that.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
overall,
that was pretty cool. Yeah, and then this year, instead of like the normal, when we've gone to the New Jersey Horror Con, we've always done the VIP party, which is typically
yeah,
usually just like giving out the New Jersey Reward and stuff
the
like
icon
that. They just
award,
the
yeah.
Icon Award and stuff like that, which they did give one out to. I know Daniel Roebuck got one, so that was pretty cool. And but they decided to do a karaoke, which was hosted by our friend DeFallon, so that was pretty cool. And Nick came up, and there was a couple celebrities, like the girl that was from Screamboat did an awesome Beauty and the Beast song,
Yeah,
which was really, really cool. But then the highlight who won the karaoke was
was
guys
Hawk.
that was Hawk, guy dressed up as him and Trip, so much that a lot of people thought that was Edward Furlong sitting in the room for a little bit because how much he had that look down pretty good, but he came out and did a Bloodhound Gang, so that was really funny and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I think if the con, obviously the con's going to be coming back in September at that hotel, but if they continue on the hotel, I think the karaoke was a hit. I think there was a lot of people there. They had a good crowd. People were having a good time. When people were singing songs, they were dancing around. There was a there was a young kid that came out and did Gangsta's Paradise, which was pretty funny. That
Yeah,
was pretty good. So it was like, yeah, it was a good time. I was like, it was definitely a fun event. Those karaoke's, are always fun. But yeah, it was cool. Like I said in the very beginning, you had Bill Mosley come out there and he sang a couple lullabies and weird songs to everybody and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool, you know what I mean? And then like you were saying, like the Stream and Terrifier guys, Marcus came out and did some Tenacious D, some
dude, you were
R-rated
stoked on that, dude.
some R-rated karaoke, which so I was all for that because I like doing the songs that make people grab their pearls and go, oh my God, I can't believe they're singing that. But I thought that was a cool event. I was like, it was pretty neat that they had that and stuff like that. I mean, my only problem, my only issue with that karaoke thing was that uh maybe a bigger room. The
Yeah,
room was a little bit tighter and stuff like that. But I think it was
not a
fun.
lot of chairs.
Yeah, not a lot of chairs, you know what I mean? Especially if you get there, you had to get there kind of early to get a good seat. But they had like I said, it was a full crowd. I mean, there
Yeah,
was about as many people as you could get in that room and stuff like that. And like I said, some of the celebrities were down there, and then some of them, a lot of the cosplayers and stuff like that. Some of the vendor people were there, so I thought that was really cool. And then even one of the I can't remember the guy's name right now, but I know he's with Ryan's partners because whenever they do the Icon Awards, he's usually with him all the time. But he actually came out and did a Stone Temple Pilots song, so that was kind of cool that you kind of got the people who are the running the New Jersey Horror Con or even joining in on the karaoke. So like I said, I thought it was fun. It was especially for them it being the first time they're doing the VIP with this kind of karaoke. I think it was a cool turnout, and I feel like that's definitely at least if they keep doing it at the hotel, I think that's going to be a staple that everybody's going to be like, oh man, you got to go to the karaoke, man. It was so fun, blah blah blah, and then next time it'll get even bigger and bigger.
for sure. I mean, shout out to Fallon for finding her way on and off that stage with no stairs. They put the stairs on the completely opposite side where we were standing, like the farthest away from her, and she's
I
trying
felt
to
bad
get
for
up.
her.
Yeah, me too. She's trying to get up on the stage with these heels that she's wearing on, and it was definitely a tricky experience. But no, with the Hawk cosplayer, I was so convinced he was going to do Strutter. But the Bad Touch was so much fun. But I did love the fact that right before it played, he said Maestro, just like Edward said in Detroit Rock City before they played it. And I was like, that man knows the character. That man knows.
Yeah,
And I was like, that was a super duper cool thing. I really, really like that. I don't know how many other people, picked up on that, when he said Maestro and just knew that that was a specific Detroit Rock City reference. But that was really, really cool. Talking to Joey was so awesome too, because that dude is so enthusiastic about everything. I mean, just talking about wrestling and talking about, music and touring and writing his books and all that kind of stuff. I was like, that dude's just got an attitude and just a style that people should just aspire to be, because that dude is definitely just super duper lovey and just so cordial and very inviting. So getting to see Joey and have a little bit of time is cool. And also shout out to you as well for us double checking, because like I think we knew that Steve was leaving after Saturday, but we were a little unsure about Joey. but I just remember it rotating in my brain. I was like, that just seems so weird to me, though, that they have. I thought it was great that they had the majority of the Kiss universe, and yeah, upstairs, in Kiss Heaven. Um, and no, no pun or disrespected meant. It's just up above everybody else. But the fact that it was like, well, we know Peter's leaving. We weren't sure about the Kiss photographer, and I think he ended up leaving as well. But it seemed like they weren't going to keep everybody upstairs, and that was the only part I was a little unsure about because I was like, huh, that's going to be very bizarre for Joey to just be up here by himself. Maybe we should go double check. And sure enough, he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm done after today." And it was like, "All right, Devil, let's make this happen because we are not going to get another shot at that." And also actually a shout out to another cool vendor that that me, Mrs. Devil, and Mrs. Vamp all partake in was a, you know, Rob Zombie and horror like comic illustrator who had these, these official like Rob Zombie books like Z for Zombie, which is like an alphabets of Rob Zombie, and there was like a House of a Thousand Corpses like graphic novel-ish type book, and then just a bunch of different, comic books like Mrs. Vamp got Halloween, of course, and she really liked the House of a Thousand Corpses one. I really liked the Vampira one, so like obviously, but I thought it was really cool. So if he does come back to another con, I'll have to swing back around and get that book from him because I thought those were actually really cool. And he did like, illustrations inside while he was signing the books, which I thought was really, really cool. And he had this really awesome, like, like, you know, foot and a half tall, like 2 feet tall Captain Spaulding statue that was on his table as well. That was definitely getting a lot of attention. But as always, Devil, I mean, this was definitely a cool one. I think it was a good time had by all. People seemed to overall really enjoy it. Yeah, my only thing is like, and it's understandable again because it's not a big open space convention style, but it was very tricky for that hallway vendor area because again, like you had said, it's and I can also say this for myself, like it gets very overwhelming when I don't know where to look or there's so much to look at. Is I definitely get very overwhelmed. And that's one of the stuff that I know drives Mrs. Vamp absolutely fucking batty is the fact that like I need to do multiple circles around, and it's not because I'm trying to delay the day or delay stuff. It's that I have to do it. I have to slow it down because it's just too much to process if I'm doing it. Not only obviously if you do something anything quickly, you're gonna miss things, but I can't even do it at a normal clip of speed unless I'm doing multiple passes. I have to like slow myself down or I'm just not going to be able to process it properly. And then I can potentially, miss out on cool things. So like it was definitely a cool thing when it came to that. But overall it was definitely an awesome experience, man, and it's only it's a countdown till September, my friend.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, as of right now, of the recording so far, they have only added what is going to be speculated as a Child's Play 2 reunion. They've got the guy who played Andy Barkley, and they've got Christine, the main girl in that one. But they've had them at the con before, and I don't remember them ever specifying it as a Child's Play 2 reunion. So fingers crossed, maybe we might get some more actors from that. Hopefully Brad Dourif. I know he's just came out just recently and said that he was retiring from doing the Chucky and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's like
I
so
heard he was retiring from acting, but he was
yeah,
only
yeah,
doing
yeah, and yeah. He's retired from acting, and that nobody else should ever do the. Nobody wants anybody else to do the Chucky voice other than him. So that'd be cool to finally see him. Hopefully maybe they bring in his daughter Fiona because I've
yeah.
always wanted to meet her. I think she's amazing. I think the her playing her father as the young Charles Ray was the greatest thing ever.
So
She
cool.
has his mannerisms and his look down perfectly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who all they're gonna add. As far as like reunions and obviously like we've said before, they're gonna throw in some of the Terrifier stream guys. So it'd be kind of cool to see maybe if they who else they can bring in from that universe that maybe we haven't seen. And who else knows? You know what I mean? Maybe we're gonna see. Maybe Felissa might be back again, or you never know who you're gonna see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who they add for this one, especially because like this one is apparently like their 20th. I wouldn't say it's not their 20th anniversary. It's their 20th like con or whatever like that. So it's sort of like a milestone one. So I'm assuming
Yeah.
like usually when it comes to those ones, when you do anniversaries or milestone ones, you usually go pretty big.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to because they're talking about that. So that being a milestone one that they're gonna get some cool people in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, and so definitely shout out to New Jersey Horror Con for that upcoming announcement. That would be really cool. If I could throw something in there. I mean, I know they're gonna have her, at the sideshow, but I would definitely love another crack, at Christy Swanson for Deadly Friends. So that would definitely be awesome if they were able to bring her in for the main con. But also, just because I had precursing kind of mentioned it, I would love to get a shot at those, early victim girls from like Terrifier 1 and 2, or also Sierra's mom would be kind of a cool one to get as well. But definitely stuff like that to get a couple of some other of those names that are very synonymous with those movies would definitely be really cool. And I'm sure at the next con, if they do more of the stream and Terrifier thing, and Mike's going to be there, that I'm sure it's only a matter of time before I get another shot at Jason to get him on there as well. So that'll definitely be a cool one. So appreciate you, Fangs and Infernos. This is going to wrap it up for our review of New Jersey Horror Con. Another great time, really, really good time. We always appreciate Ryan's courtesies. And keep in mind that rockinhorror.com, Mark and Lizzie take care of all of our merch. Our merch store is on rockandhorror.com. And one of the other reasons I want to bring that up is shout out to Steve Barton, but also shout out to all of the Terrifier people. As if any of you Fangs and Infernos are unfamiliar with, they have done a Terrifier inspired shirt called Clawifier. Both myself and Devil have it. And the fun thing about that is, man, Devil rocked that thing for Sunday, and that was all the rage for the Terrifier people. They were a big fan of that shirt. Mark and Lizzie are both cat people, just like me and Mrs. Vamp, as well as Devil and Mrs. Devil are. So, we all love our cats, and the tying it in with Terrifier definitely was all the rage, and the Terrifier crew really, really loved that shirt. So go ahead and get yourself a Clawifier t-shirt at rockandhorror.com, but hit our merch as well, and always follow their socials, because any deals that they do also apply in our store as well. And then, of course, shout out to our other partners and sponsors of the Vampire and Devil podcast, like Chris with the Buffalo Bill House, John Kozik with the Salem Witch Museum and the Baltimore Witch Museum, Chris and Saren when it comes to Twisted Vines, and of course, our beloved Brutalities, who we love so much. But that's going to be it for right now. This has been our review of New Jersey Horror Con, and coming up next is going to be our series of interviews that we did at New Jersey Horror Con as well. So check those out. Let us know down in the comments what you thought about them, and also who you think we should look out for to get cool interview opportunities with as well. Take care, Fangs and Infernos. We'll see you soon. Horns up. Fangs out. What's up there, Fangs and Infernos? We are coming at you from a little bit of a different facet. You may remember this guy from a different location. You might remember that guy from a particular, possibly different opportunity of a said conversation. But more importantly than that, it's about this guy right here. Myself, the Vampire, and of course Devil are very, very stoked to have a friend of ours in Mr. Steve Brown rejoining us
guys?
for some more conversation.
We haven't seen you in like over a month,
I
maybe.
know, you don't call. You're doing right.
Honeymoon's
You
over.
didn't get that cake I sent you?
I mean, I got the explicit photo you might have sent, but that one lives rent free in the phone for others to may or may not know whether or not they might exist.
Right.
But as always, my friend, thank you for a little bit of your time.
Of course, man. Can't wait to
always
see
great
it. Here
to
we
see
are,
you.
New Jersey Horror Con.
Absolutely.
Look, aren't these guys scary? They're scaring the hell out of me.
Oh, it's all right. Is his hair standing up?
That's
Like,
it. It's just fine. It's a good hair day.
Exactly.
Good hair day.
So, I mean, New Jersey HorrorCon, stomping ground, of course, for you when it comes to just, New Jersey in general, the whole New York area.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's a little bit
Yeah.
of familiarity when it comes to this area. But it's kind of a different, vibe for you as well. Of course, when it comes to, music, different events like that, playing live and all of those kind of events, something that's geared a little bit more towards a different, clientele, a little slightly different fan base. But again, rock and roll knows no bounds. But how has it been? How's this weekend been so far for you?
It's been a lot of fun, man. I started doing the, what do we call it, the convention circuit. I started last month doing the Chiller Theater and just having a blast, man. This is my second official one. I'm really excited, enjoying it, and I got a couple more booked for the rest of the year. I'm doing one big one in Vegas, but I'm not announced yet, so
it could be anywhere.
It's been fun, and selling there are a lot of Kiss fans here today because Peter Criss is upstairs.
Yeah.
Peter Criss on the drums.
Yeah, we've come across that Joey guy. You may or may not
Oh yeah,
know.
Joey Quesada's here.
Speculation.
But Lita Ford was over here.
Yeah.
So, but this is, look, as we get older, this is another way, as I've always talked about, being a professional musician, you have to have multiple streams of income. You have to have the octopus tentacles out everywhere. So this is another way that I get to go sign some autographs, sell some records, sell some guitars maybe.
Yeah.
And it's saves the voice because I don't have to sing. Well, at least I don't know if I have to sing yet.
Yeah.
Depending if the mood strikes you.
Yeah.
Who knows? They might be like, Steve, we need one more thing from
That's
you. It's
right.
like, because it is karaoke tonight.
Karaoke, that's right. Ow!
So when it comes to an event like this, of course, like you said, having the octopus tentacles out there, and of course, everybody's a music fan, everybody's welcome, and everybody's a fan in general.
Yeah.
When you do have something like Chiller Theater or New Jersey Horror Con that is geared a little bit more to a different genre of entertainment outside of music.
Yeah.
How do you look at something like that? Are you, open to all opportunities when it comes to that? Are you a horror guy yourself?
Well, I'm not, honestly, no. I sort of am a horror guy. I'm a big fan of the classics, of course. Grew up in the 70s and 80s. So I remember the first movie that really, when I was a kid, that scared the bejesus out of me was Carrie.
Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing just the commercial alone, the thing when the blood gets splattered, and I finally saw the movie. It was scary as hell.
That ending just scares the shit out of you with the
and
hand.
the original, the original Halloween, the original Friday the 13th. All stuff like that. And of course, my favorite movie, I wouldn't really call it a horror movie, but it's pretty scary. Jaws.
Oh, yeah.
The original Jaws.
Oh, that's Mrs. Vamp's jam.
Yeah,
there. Halloween and Jaws. Those are her franchises.
Yeah, so, but what I think, of course, my connection with Kiss for the last 40 years of being, such a huge Kiss fan, I've made no secret that between Kiss and Van Halen, those are the two biggest influences. There would probably be no Trickster without those two bands. So Kiss has always been, I think no matter what you do and no matter what convention, there's always room for Kiss. So the fact that, my involvement with Ace on his last record on 10,000 volts, I think it works. And I think, look, at the end of the day, music is always the common denominator that brings everybody together.
Even in the genre, I mean, those movies have scores. They've got music, so there's always an involvement
and
there.
Trickster, we're sort of in the HorrorCon thing because we're in the video game history, because Line of Fire, our song off the first record, was in the White Knuckle Scoring soundtrack. That was the Nintendo record, right? Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
We were in that movie. So we're, I guess you could say that's kind of horror, scary as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, for sure. Devil?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. With all the endeavors you've done musically, have you ever got the opportunity to, or been asked to do a score, or put on a song on the soundtrack or things like that?
Yeah, we've been on a couple soundtracks. Back in the day, we were on that great Richard Grieco movie, If Looks Could Kill.
Yeah.
We were in that. But, I'm always looking, and more importantly, forget about making music. I want to be an actor in one of these movies. A couple of my friends have made some, smaller movies. My good friend made this indie film, which did pretty well. A film called Rub. That's on. I think it's on Tubi. It was on Amazon Prime, and I told him, I said, "Dude, you got to get me a role. I want to be like the scary, something completely different." But I love it, man. A couple of my friends, guys, Guy and Tony and Manny from the Wizards of Winter, they just put out a movie that I forget the name of it. But they make an indie film, so I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the call to be in. I'd love to be in a horror movie, man. Chris Jericho and
Terrifier, and all that kind
Absolutely.
of stuff like that.
Would you want to survive? Would you want to be killed, or are you indifferent to the choice?
It really doesn't matter. Whatever's going to make for a great movie, I'm all for it. You chop my head off, whatever you want to do.
Nice.
Yeah, because I always laughed about it with the movies and stuff like that. We're huge. Even at the con right now, we got Edward Furlong, who was in a movie called Brain Scan, and the guy that was in that was called the Trickster. And every time I always remembered, I was like, Trickster. I'm like, even though he was more like CK, the Trickster. But I'm like, hey man, that's getting close to being the trickster that we all love.
Yes. Especially those older movies too. They love their old school like 80s rock style. I mean, Trick or Treat, Brain Scan, so many of those movies. Fastway did that whole soundtrack for the Trick or Treat movie back in the day.
That's right.
So like there's so much just common ground when it comes to that, for sure. And one of the things that's also kind of cool that Devil and I didn't really talk to you when it came to the M3 conversation that we had, but we got SBS that we can also talk a little bit about as well.
My SBS guitar brand. Here we are, kids.
Talk about
tell your parents that's what you want for Christmas.
To talk about.
Yeah, and this is we've been in business since summer of 2023, so we're coming up on our third year now. We've sold over 2,000 guitars worldwide. They are the greatest rock guitar under $1,000 that you can buy, and it's a dream come true, of mine to have these guitars. Very much in Van Halen inspired 80s shred machine, and love it.
Absolutely, for sure. And when it comes to like how somebody like yourself that likes to stay, of course, very just, so many things going on, whether it be musically, appearances, and always just having your hand in so many different cookie jars. How do you find works best for you to avoid any kind of like a burnout? Because you understand the game of like different kind of income and just how to just live your life for yourself, your family, and everything in between. But how do you look at what events or performances or anything in between works best for you, or anything that might kind of like slow you down or wear you out?
Well, I think the most important key to what I do, which is work all the time. I'm a workaholic. But the key of it all is I love what I do, and you could see that.
Yeah.
Whether it's playing on stage, being here, I love being around people. I love the sound of my voice. Whether I'm singing Trickster, whether I'm singing Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, or stuff I did with Ace. But that's the truth of the matter, is that I love what I do. So, for me, and, I've talked about this before, I'm 7 years sober. So since all that time now, 7 years, I have gotten, in my mind, I've gotten clearer. I'm in the best shape of my life, mentally and physically. And I think as a performer, as a guitar player, as a singer, everything that I do, I'm just better at it. And I just love it. So, and I've said this before again, I tell PJ all the time, as we're in our 50s, I'm going to be 56. Don't tell anybody. Thank God for hair dye. I'm going to be 56 July 13th. And I say it all the time. The first 50 years were just the warm-up. Yeah. Now is when the best stuff is going to happen. And I truly believe that. And it really, at the end of the day, it's all about a love of rock and roll and the love of this life.
Absolutely. And we've spoken before about your long-standing singing history that, a lot of people, of course, know Pete with Trickster in the history, but you yourself are by no means a rookie when it comes to vocal abilities. But being that you are sober now for such an extended period of time, have you found that has helped your singing ability, considering it's already got a pretty good stamina to it from just doing it for so long? But did that go up in any way that you found?
It did. Well, of course it does. There's no way that I could perform and sing, because with Trickster we do all the songs in the original keys. I'm singing One in a Million and the original keys, all the songs. And then now with Always Jovi, the Bon Jovi tribute band, same thing. We're doing all those songs in the original keys, and that is some serious vocal stuff. So I mean, I'd like to think that I could probably do it if I was still partying, but that's not even a thought in my life. Now it's just, again, I thank God that I'm still alive, and like I said before, I truly believe I'm better than I've ever been, and that's what means the world to me. And I think, of course, it plays because of the physicality of it. And fitting into these skin tight pants, man, it's a lot of work.
Absolutely. And before I kick it over to Devil and let him take it away, when it comes to the Always Jovi stuff, for anybody who's unfamiliar with the band, may know about it but hasn't seen you live, is there a particular era that you focus on, or do you and your bandmates cover the gamut of Bon Jovi's history? Because there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, there is. I mean, of course, we are more focused on the classics, the 80s, and, we pretty much take the whole career, but we end it on the Have a Nice Day album, where that song, and
I love that song.
Who Says You Can't Come Home. That's pretty much it, because from there, we're focusing on, for me, and I think for most of the Bon Jovi fans, it's the heyday that they, and for me, as far as vocally, those are the songs that I fell in love with. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again till the day I die. Bon Jovi was always one of my biggest influences and inspirations, being Jersey guys. And Pete and I were at, the first time we saw Bon Jovi was 1985 when they opened up for Rat, the Invasion of Your Privacy tour, at the Meadowlands Arena right up the road here. And seeing them, that was the first time that we actually, Pete and I remember like nudging them while we're watching them, and they were getting their gold records, and I'm going, we're going to do this. We're next. Skid Row came next, but then we were right after them. So, seeing Bon Jovi and being that, the hometown guys and the Jersey guys, it made it that much more attainable. Like I said, if they can do it, we're going to do it. And sure enough, we did.
Absolutely.
With the help of John, of course, because he was one of the, he was the first real rock star to get behind Trickster back in 1986, and he helped us out.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, Richie Sambora and Phil X as well. I mean, no shortage of amazing guitar riffs and players when it comes to that.
So great. So happy for Phil. And, we miss Richie. I wish he would come out of the woodwork and start rocking again, but, neither here nor there.
Of course, for sure.
Speaking of people that we miss and stuff like that, obviously we talked about working on the Ace Frehley album. And unfortunately we've lost just recently lost Ace. Talk about a fun story of like maybe at a time when you were making the album that you just remember, that just makes you want to smile, that makes you just want to laugh of the experience you had with Ace, working with Ace.
Well, I mean, every time we worked together, whether it was at his studio or my studio, there was never a shortage of jokes. It was always comedy, and I think that's something that goes hand in hand with rock and roll. That's why we're all friends with so many comedians. But, in particular, again, it was every time we worked together was a great experience, in the sense of, for me, it was that pinch me moment where I'm working with my hero, but then I got to go, wait a second, I got to pull this together. And, and Ace was such a great guy. I don't know if you ever met him, but he would always make you feel like, you were his friend for 50 years. It was that comfortable, and we had that relationship. And the coolest thing, I think, is that at both of our ages, but Ace especially, at 71, 72 years old, when we would get going creatively, working on a new song, to see his enthusiasm, it was infectious. And it was like, man, this guy is still... We're writing great songs, making a great record. And we were very aware every time we would make a new song, it was like, yeah, this is really awesome. And then especially when we play it for other people, or we would, send the songs to the record company, and they'd be like, guys, this is incredible. This is better than the last song. I remember when, the first song we did was walking on the moon. We sent it to the record company. They're like, we want this. This is the best thing he's done in, Lord knows how long. Then we sent him Fighting for Life. And they were like, this is even better. And then we sent him 10,000 volts. This is even better. It just kept. And so that was, again, I can't sum up one moment because the whole experience, and from the bottom of my heart, I say this, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I know Ace felt that way too, because the response to 10,000 volts has just been overwhelming. And still to this day, the song 10,000 volts is the only song out of Ace's catalog over the last 25 years that's in the Spotify top 10.
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes about what the fans think about it. And he gained a whole new fan base with getting on social media and really embracing that and becoming somewhat of a social media star, because besides being such a rock star and the legend and the icon that Ace was, he was a character.
Yeah.
And so that was what was so great about him. And that's what I told him about social media. I said, dude, you got to get on TikTok. You got to get on, make videos and let people see you. And sure enough, it worked. And, and he loved it. So, but we all miss him every day.
Absolutely. And then, with all the people that you have worked with and stuff like that, barring, obviously people who are no longer with us, is there anybody that you have on a Mount Rushmore of somebody that you would want to work with in the future, like someone you would like to, collaborate or write a song with or do a song with that you haven't had a chance to?
There were so many. I still, I'm still hopeful that I get to work with the Def Leppard guys in a real capacity of maybe, producing a record with them, but they have their own thing. I would love to work with Bon Jovi, with John, and write some songs with him and really try to get the sound back to the heyday. But there's so many. I just, again, right now, I'm working on Lorraine Lewis, the new Femme Fatale record. We're just about done with that, which is the record is coming out so good, and I think we have a tentative September release date. Nice. But
she just did the song with Blacklist Union as well.
Yes.
That's been doing very well.
Love it. And the Johnny June and Johnny Cash song.
Yeah.
What's the song? I'm going to Jackson.
I'm going to Jackson.
Jackson. So good. Love you, Lorraine. But look, I love to work with everybody. I was working last year with a country artist, Corey Marks, who I wrote some songs with, and hopefully he's got a new record deal coming up and a new record, so hopefully we get to work with them. I've been working with another band out of Nashville called Hippies and Cowboys, and so again, this goes back to the love of music. And this is just what I do, creating all the time, whether it's making videos, whether it's social media, writing songs for the new Trickster record, or whether it's going to be for somebody else. It's like breathing for me. It's what I have to do every day, to survive. So I'm blessed that, I love it. And having my own studio enables me to work whenever I want, how long I want. And, again, that was always the dream, and that was the success of Trickster enabled me to buy a house and build a recording studio in my house. And it was all about being able to have, like Ed and Al Van Halen had 5150. I wanted to have my own place where I could make music whenever I wanted and be able to engineer and produce to get that sound, because I was never really that happy with working with other people. I would ask engineers, hey man, why can't you get my guitar to sound like this? Oh, and they give me a million reasons. And then when I became my own engineer and learned how to make records for myself, I learned that there are no rules. Don't tell me you can't put all this EQ on a snare drum to make it sound like Tommy Lee. I would fucking, like Eddie Van Halen always told me, and I think this was common knowledge. He said, as long as it sounds good, it is good. No matter how you get there. And that's the truth.
Absolutely.
And especially in rock and roll, there are no rules.
Even being a guitarist and stuff like that, where you see you're supposed to play this way or that way, and then you got bands like Korn when they started playing like the drop D bass. People are like, you're not supposed to go that low, and like, well, who the hell says we can't go that low?
Exactly.
It sounds good. It sounds good. Why
It was
not
a
go that
unique
low?
sound, and still to this day. And look what they did. I love Korn.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a great band and groundbreakers. You know,
Yeah.
you know, they completely started a whole new sound. And the 7-string guitars. I never
Yeah.
really got into that personally, but
Now you see
I'm
guys
always
with
big
8 strings and stuff
Yeah,
like
oh,
that
man,
nowadays.
yeah.
It's like, geez.
baritone.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, again, it's just inspiring. And let's see. You know, I'm hoping that something happens in rock and roll that's going to be the new sound or whatever. But you know, the good news is if music, rock and roll music never evolves from where we are now, we are a part of, and like my band Trickster being a part of the 80s,
Yeah.
that's one of the greatest gifts in the world because in my opinion, it's the greatest music ever made.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
And
just throughout the whole music anyway. I mean, I love like the '80s. I mean, not only did you have amazing rock bands, but you know, whether or not you like the pop scene, that was just blowing up in the '80s
Oh,
too,
man.
with Madonna, Michael Jackson,
Duran
and all that,
Duran.
Catchy
and all
songs
that
are
kind of
catchy
stuff.
And that's really the core of it. You know, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, whether it was, you know, MJ, whether it was Duran, I loved all that stuff. Adam and the Ants,
Yeah.
The Outfield. I love Big Country.
Yeah.
You know, and one thing, even at an early age, what I recognized the most was great songwriting.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where you can dress it up any way. You could put on a drum machine, you could put on those 80s guitars and the synth, but then if you did it acoustically, a lot of those songs, they'd still be great songs.
Yeah.
Hungry Like the Wolf, if you
Yeah.
play it on acoustic guitar, still a great song. And that's how I wrote all the, you know, original Trickster songs on the first record.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You know?
even that like the Def Leppard thing that just came out when they did all those songs with like the orchestras.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, those songs sound amazing in a different tone.
Reimagine, they're
Yeah.
still, and that's the true test. How you
Yeah.
can tell someone something is a great song, where you could do it anyway. You do a bluegrass version, of
Yeah.
it. You do a country version, still a great song.
Yeah,
absolutely, for sure. And Devil and I have talked to you in other aspects with our respective side projects of either TMS or Empire Extreme. But for our beloved Fangs and Infernos, of course, there is talk of upcoming Trickster music and
Yeah.
also a documentary about you and PJ's upbringing and life in Trickster. And so we would love for you to take a moment to let our fans know a little bit of what you can tell them about those two situations.
Well, you know, and again, I've made no secret about this. You know, we've had probably about 15 or 16 songs, 75% done for the last almost a year now. And it's just, you know, life is busy, and I'm blessed, PJ's blessed that we have very busy careers outside of Trickster, and that we do all these multiple things. So you know, it's 24 hours a day is not enough for somebody like me. I need a lot more to get stuff done. But the good news is the material is phenomenal. I just played I played you guys one of the
that one
new
is
songs.
killer.
Sometimes Hell Gives You Heaven is one of the songs that I'm really stoked about, and hopefully we're going to finish that soon. But you know, again, you know, there's no rush on it. Hopefully we can do it, you know, have it out for next year, and it will coincide with the release of our documentary that we're doing, 1 in a Million, which is not a Trickster documentary. Yes, there's a lot of Trickster stuff in there, but it's the story about me and PJ of our 38-year plus friendship, brotherhood, friendship, our musical partnership, and playing together, and you know, our lives changing as teenagers into adults, and all the things we do outside of being in Trickster. But the core of it is, and the one thing that glues us all together, is always coming back home to Trickster. So it's a story because we're journeyman musicians, you know, with PJ playing with Lita Ford and playing with Fozzy and all the other things that, you know, Rubik's Cube and our cover band, Sugar Belly in the 90s, Soaked, Throwing Rocks, the story of all this music that we've made, still a lot of it unreleased, sadly. Don't hate me. I'm trying to get it all done. But
for an amazing box set.
Yeah, it's true, man. Or just one release, you know. But we've had this incredible journey together, and you know, and the truth of the matter with that is, as well, we still have the best time playing together. Yeah. And we'll be back together in 2 weeks out in Minnesota, so don't you worry. But you know, it's been such an incredible journey, and now more than ever, We have a film crew. My friend Alex Castino, who worked at MTV and VH1 for 30 years, he's directing the documentary. He just did the Wolfgang Van Halen behind the music. So it's really taken shape, and it's again, it's a human story, but there's going to be, don't worry, fans, there's going to be a ton of unseen Trickster footage, stuff from back in the day and new stuff, and some comedy stuff, but at the end of the day, always, we're just still having the best time, and we're so blessed that we get to do this.
Absolutely, and we're just as blessed getting to talk to you, Steve. Of
Yes,
course,
you are.
Devil, anything final from yourself, my friend?
He has blessed us with his presence.
Yep.
Upside down
Bless
cross style. For this show, maybe an upside down cross style.
We're just going to let everybody know, too, he wrote 95% of the script.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Funny joke. I did. I told you what to say.
No, absolutely.
Don't believe the clickbait and everything you see on the internet, because there's not a lot of fact checking going on. And these guys are legit, and they tell the truth.
No, 100%.
That's what means the most to me.
No, absolutely, and a fun little question to seal it all up with. Who would you side with if you had to make the choice, a devil or a vampire?
Ooh, I think a vampire.
Good
man. That's a little more Christian.
Steve, we appreciate
Thank
you
you guys.
so much, man. Absolutely. Thanks, Infernos. Thank you guys so much. We've got so much more going on for New Jersey HorrorCon, but again, we want to always appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. He's the devil. I'm Vampire. More importantly, this is Steve Brown.
Rock and roll. Thanks, guys.
Horns up. Fangs out. All right there, Fangs and Infernos. We're coming back at you with one more when it comes here at New Jersey HorrorCon, and we're talking to this guy. This is Joey. You might know him, of course, from another appearance that he might have made on an affiliate show of Vampire and Devils, but we'll talk about that another time because we're going to talk about this right here. First and foremost, Joey Casada, my friend, thank you so much for giving us a little more of your time.
Dude, of course. I love you guys. Glad to be back.
Absolutely. And New Jersey HorrorCon, Peter, Chris, you and Kiss go way, way back. But it's a big, family environment. I mean, of course, Steve Brown's here and there's just so much going on. But in a con situation like this where there's so much activity and so much going on, how does that kind of stuff work out for you? Because it can definitely be a lot to process.
Oh, it's great. Listen, I know it's called New Jersey HorrorCon, but this is really a Peter Chris event. This is, Peter's headlining this event. Most of the people are here to see Peter. So, us being part of that KISS family, me doing, my KISS work and Steve Brown doing his stuff with Ace, we're all a big family. So all the fans, the KISS Army is here to support all of us. So it's great.
Absolutely, for sure. And of course, with us, losing such a vital member of the KISS family recently, I feel like, of course, this is a Peter Chris event, but it's family, which you had said. And so, knowing that somebody is now no longer with the family is always got to be a little bit of, a sad situation. But of course, that's when family comes together.
Of course, it's heartbreaking without Ace, but now we have to celebrate who's here. So we're here to celebrate Peter. He's 80 now. We want to make sure that Peter has the best time. He just released a new record. He's got an amazing turnout, sold out both days. So we couldn't ask for anything more.
Absolutely, Mrs. Devil was one of the fans that went to that for sure. Yeah. So definitely awesome when it comes to that. And so, how about yourself? Of course, you're here. You've got all your music situation and the stuff that's going on. But you sit down and you put words to pages. So tell us a little bit about that, because of course writing in a large form situation, that's an undertaking.
Listen, I love writing. It's something that I've been doing for years now. I started with my autobiography about 6 or 7 years ago. This is my latest book. It's about the 3 KISS drummers, chronological order, kind of telling the history of the 3 drummers. Peter auditioning for KISS, and where was Eric during that time? Where was Eric Singer during that time? It kind of follows the 3 drummers along their journey. But writing is just, it's very therapeutic. I love doing research. I love doing, in-depth stuff. And I try to create things that I want to read. Like, I wanted to read a book like this for years. I never could read it because it wasn't available. So I said, you know what? I'll write it.
Absolutely. And before I kick it over to Devil, let him take it away. When it comes to this book, talk a little bit about your personal relationships with those 3 drummers. Have you had a lot of interaction with them individually over the years?
Listen, I've been very fortunate. I saw KISS. I was 5 years old. Madison Square Garden changed my life. Wanted to play the drums for the rest of my life. I saw Peter Chris live go up on that drum riser, doing his drum solo was the best thing I've ever seen. Changed my life. And over the years, now that I can call them my friends, it changed my life. I'm great friends with Peter now. I'm friends with Eric Carr's family. I never got to meet Eric, but over the years I've become very close with his family. Even worked on his cartoon, The Rockheads, with his family. And then with Eric Singer, same thing. I toured with Kiss when Eric Singer was in the band. So him and I got really close, just loving drumming and talking about drumming over the years. He actually introduced me. These are my sticks right here. So I use surfboard wax on my sticks, and Eric Singer actually taught me that when I was touring with Kiss. We were playing outdoor sheds. It was 100 degrees in Texas, and my sticks were getting super slippery, and he showed me to use this wax on my sticks. I haven't played a show since then, probably 22 years now, without them.
Oh, wow.
So it's been an incredible journey.
That's awesome, man. Devil.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell the the Fangs and the Infernos. How did you get involved with working with Kiss? Like, how did that first get involved, and being able to just be in that proximity with them and meeting the guys? Obviously, you said you saw them in Madison Square Garden at a young age, so obviously they were somebody that inspired you to be a musician. But how did you get to work with them first off professionally?
I've always obviously been a big Kiss fan my whole life, but I was never, I never was a person that wanted autographs or wanted to meet the band. I wanted to work with the guys. I wanted to become friends with my heroes. I wanted to become peers with them and fellow musicians. So I worked my ass off for dozens and dozens and dozens of years. I've been playing since I'm 5, since I got home from Madison Square Garden that night, and 45 years later, I'm here, and all the hard work pays off. If you keep working hard, you will make everything you want come true. And I've been wanting to do stuff in the Kiss camp forever, and it's not something I sought out, but it organically happens. When you work hard, good things happen.
Yeah, it just seems like that with a lot of Kiss stuff, because you see a lot of interactions of like people who have got to work with Kiss. A lot of it's just a lot of like random luck, with a photographer just kind of sneaking in a camera and doing like that to people who work with them. It's crazy to hear those stories, but it's like Kiss was one of those people who were like, well, shit, this people have the balls to do this, and let's see what they can do.
Yeah, my whole life it's weird. Like, it always comes back to Kiss at a certain point, because it's what I love, and it's passion that I have. So when you do something passionately, all that positive stuff comes back to you. So over the years, whether I've tried to get record deals or I tried to get TV deals, whatever I was trying to do, somehow it always came back to Kiss, and that Kiss connection made those things happen.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. It's just this weird kismet, but you put it back to Kiss, and all stuff will happen.
The Kissiverse.
It's crazy.
Absolutely. And another thing that's also very cool about this particular event, not only do you have Peter Criss here, Edward Furlong, James DeBello.
Yeah.
So we got to take a moment to talk about Detroit Rock City. What do you remember going back to the very end of the 90s when that movie came out?
First of all, I love that movie. I'm a big fan of Kiss Meets the Phantom, too.
Yes.
And when Detroit Rock City was announced, I was over the moon. And I thought it was the perfect movie. I just thought it was this feel-good. I was those kids. Battling. My friends used to battle with their parents. I remember I was 12 years old. I lived in Brooklyn, New York. Me and my friends would take the train by ourselves, into Manhattan, to Port Authority bus terminal, and then a bus into New Jersey to go see Kiss. We were 12 years old. And I remember my mom would tell me, my mom wasn't the woman that was in the movie. She was supportive, but my friends' parents were like, you can't do this. You can't go see Kiss, blah, blah, blah. You, what are you doing? You can't go there. You're only 12 years old. So they would lie. They'd say, we're sleeping out. We're sleeping at this one's house. We're sleeping at that one's house. And my mom would tell me, listen, you can go. Just don't look anyone in the eyes on the train.
Lynn Shay's amazing in that mother role, though.
Yeah.
Like, so good.
We even joked around it because, James was walking around a little bit. I'm like, hey, kid, give me your Kiss tickets.
Oh, my God.
Calls the huge brother over to just knock him across the room.
When she burns those tickets, how much you want to just strangle her in that
that's
movie?
But then you're like, come on, James, you couldn't have. those are prized possessions, man. To let those out of your sight to
Put them out.
begin
I
with,
couldn't agree more.
Oh yeah,
they should
no.
have never even been in the jacket that he was thinking about. That should have been in some underwear, for all I know.
I agree.
The soul just leaving your body as those tickets are going on, and
Evil.
and even
And then
also
winning
just,
the tickets and then forgetting to hang up before you're like, oh, come on.
Oh my God! Right.
yeah,
Like,
they
oh,
start
dude,
strangling him in the elevator because he screwed it up
I
again.
love that movie. And then they all go off their own way to try to get their own tickets and furlong strips, and I love it. It's a great movie.
So
and they have to
good.
meet each other up to get in.
Yep.
I mean, great.
Shannon Tweed as the cougar at the
Oh,
bar.
Yeah. And then they kind of, just brought in that resurgence of that Kiss reunion with the original four crew. So it's so awesome to see that. But yeah, but speaking of other movies, I know we're at the New Jersey Horror Con. Are you into horror movies, and what kind of horror movies were you into?
Absolutely into all the classics, the whole Friday the 13th series, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Exorcist is still to me the greatest horror movie of all time. So
Yeah.
I love all those horror movies. Maybe I don't love so much of the big gore ones, but the supernatural ones or the thriller ones, love that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, and then like I said, going into and stuff like that with people that you've worked with throughout your career. Is there anybody that obviously barring people who are no longer with us, that you would like to work with, or possibly trying to do something with somebody that you would like to whether it's help them on an album or just do a project with them in general?
I mean, listen, I'm fans of so many musicians, and knock on wood, I've got to work with just about everyone that I grew up being a hero of mine. All the way up to today with Twisted Sister. Twisted Sister, one of my favorite bands, top 3 bands of all time for me. Growing up, I worshipped Twisted Sister during the Stay Hungry and the UK.
I'm a Disney fanatic.
Those videos on MTV were, life changing too. I was 10 years old at the time, so they were like bigger than life to me. And now, full circle, that me being the drummer of Twisted Sister, it's an incredible opportunity.
Oh yeah,
I mean, how did that phone call or email or connection, like how did that go and happen?
Just incredible. Turn of events. I've been friends with the Twisted camp for a long time. A lot of the guys from Twisted were on my old show called Z-Rock. It was on IFC. D was on. JJ was on. Eddie was on. So I know the camp for a long time. My band ZO2 toured with Twisted here and there. So the guys know me. We've been really friendly over the years. And when Joey Franco couldn't do the whole run with them, they gave me a call to see if I was interested. I was like, are you kidding me? Yes. So I'm over the moon excited.
Yeah.
So awesome. And one thing that goes hand in hand with, especially 80s, horror movies, is the music and the rock music that goes along with it. We were having a conversation with Steve earlier about an episode that we did about, based off the M3 Festival, where we talked about the movie Trick or Treat, which is amazing with Fastway doing the soundtrack, but we put it up against the Devil's Pick, which was
Strangeland, D. Snyder.
Oh my God, of course.
And that soundtrack was like that reminiscent of what that newer age of music, that more late 90s, early 2000s metal, industrial metal.
Of course, and that was a great movie too.
Oh, I love
it. D's so talented.
Captain Howard, him as Captain Howard is amazing. Tattoos and the piercings and stuff like that. It's bar none. I think it's a way too underrated film.
I couldn't agree more.
So underrated. Like, I fight tooth and nail, and I will die on the sword for how great Trick or Treat is.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's a tougher sell nowadays because it doesn't age as well. It's still so enjoyable, and I watch it regularly. But one of the things we talked about was Strangeland is really good and ahead of its time, especially with the internet now. And Devil and I are not a sadness or a dirt type of show when it comes to that, but unfortunately it's a different world we live in now, where internet and predators is a thing now, unfortunately. And it really shows that movie, more than people understand, is ahead of its time.
Still way before it was even
Of course. Yeah, the internet was brand new.
Yeah.
So I mean, for Dee to have that wherewithal or that thought process, it's kind of crazy.
Not only the writing in that movie, but his acting in that. Oh my God, it's phenomenal.
Where they people were always wondering whether or not you think he was rehabilitated, and I honestly think that he was, and I think that those guys brought that Captain Howdy back out.
And how do you look back at Sammy Kerr with Trick or Treat?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I remember as a kid, I didn't know that movie as a kid. All I knew was Gene Simmons and Ozzy were on the cover.
Yeah.
So when I finally got a hold of it, I was like, back then, anything with a Kiss member in it was gold. So I don't know, like you said, I haven't watched it in many years, so I don't know if it holds up anymore today, but back then, I loved it.
I mean, Devil, I would say we discussed this. It holds up, but again, it's a much more lower budget and a trickier concept because it's got that 80s vibe, you know, and
a lot of those Friday the 13th and stuff. They're would they hold up in today's marketplace? I don't know.
The CGI is very tricky back then. Nowadays,
But
so that's definitely a thing for sure when it comes to that. And another thing that Devil and I are big in, and we know that you're in, is we are wrestling guys. So I mean, so talk a little bit about like, you know, what you liked about wrestling growing up and how you got into it. Of course, you got Joey Licious, and how do you look at things like WWE and AEW now?
So again, same thing like Kiss. I grew up on 80s wrestling. I was in Madison Square Garden the night Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik for the title the first time. I was 10 years old in Madison Square Garden, losing my mind as a little kid. Wrestling, I grew up with just as much as Kiss and rock music. So it was literally my other calling. And that's where Wrestling with Joey Licious comes in. So I built this YouTube video series. I star as myself, all the old wrestling legends, the Iron Sheik, Roddy Piper, Mick Foley, Tito Santana, Jake the Snake Roberts, all these guys star in the show with me. And it's kind of my alternate reality. If I didn't become a rock star and I wanted to become a wrestler, but I never made it as a wrestler and I kind of, struggling along the way, and these guys come on to help me live my dream. But on the book front, I am working on, should be out later this month in June, tribute to, I was a big wrestling magazine fan.
Oh, sure.
Growing up, I'd ride my bike to every newsstand to get the new wrestling magazine. So
I got an Illustrated.
Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, all that stuff. So I did a 50-year history of the wrestling rankings and promotions and champions based on all the old wrestling magazines. So you hold it in your hand, you feel like you have an old wrestling magazine in your hand, but it's 50 years of stats.
Man, I feel like you and Jim Cornette need to get together and go bowling.
Oh my God. I can't wait to see what he thinks of it.
Absolutely, for sure. Devil?
Yeah, I mean, even adding that to the wrestling and stuff like that was, who was your biggest, inspiration? For me, I've always been a Hulk fan and stuff like that. To me, I was always Ultimate Warrior was my just because him coming on that ring, the face paint, and just the intensity that he had was bar none the greatest.
Listen, I'll always be a big 80s wrestling fan. So Hulk, Macho, Warrior, all those guys to me were bigger than life. Roddy, that's my era. So if I gotta pick the four, Hulk, Macho, Warrior, Andre. I mean, you can't go wrong. And my first love in wrestling was Superfly.
Oh, yeah.
First time I saw Superfly, Saturday Morning Wrestling, Channel 9, local to New York. I saw, there was a clip, and this is how my new book opens. The first clip, Don Morocco's being interviewed by Buddy Rogers, and Snooker's in the ring, and Morocco confronts Snooker and spits on him. Snooker loses his mind, rips Morocco's clothes off. And as a little 9-year-old kid, I was hooked for life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And to put you on the spot, because it's just kind of fun, who's your Mount Rushmore?
So in my wrestling book, so it's almost impossible to really do the Mount Rushmore. So what I did in my book, the center pages, much like these pages where they're color, the center pages of the new wrestling book, it has the Mount Rushmore, my Mount Rushmore of each decade. So 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. So if you buy the book, which will be available on Amazon most likely in June, same with this, Amazon.com. That Steve Brown right there. The handsome.
What I want you all
powerful.
to know is who is Joey Casada? That is the question.
Can you shade this a little?
I love this guy.
Book, and you'll see what I think the Mount Rushmore of all the decades are.
Nice, because like for me, like again, it's so impossible to do. But like when I do the simplest version of like who and when I was growing up with wrestling, for me it was always the Ultimate Warrior, Sting, Raven, and Jeff Hardy. Those are just the four first people that I each gravitated to when they came on the scene. And then I'm always going to gravitate towards darker characters. So a shout out to my fellow brethren in Gangrel and Vampiro, because I always loved what they were doing. And me and Mrs. Vamp are huge Rhea Ripley.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. But again, you can't go. It's all personal preference, right? There's no Mount Rushmore. There's no such thing, right? How do you not put Flair up there? How do you not put Hogan up there? You got to put. So the way I broke it up, I even broke it up Mount Rushmore women, Mount Rushmore masked wrestlers, Mount
Oh, yeah.
Rushmore of painted
Like
face
people who are
wrestlers.
technical wrestlers. Like, I mean,
Oh,
even
yeah.
though it's controversial, I don't care what anybody says. Chris Benoit is one of the
Right.
greatest
Right.
wrestlers.
Of course.
Personal,
In-ring wrestlers,
obviously,
of
but
course.
personality or the things that happen.
Yeah.
But as a wrestler, you can't deny how talented of a wrestler
Yeah.
he was.
Because when you talk about things like, if you look at like a marketing standpoint, I actually watched MJF say this recently in an interview where he's like, when you're looking at things like marketing, yeah, there's like the correct answers are things like, you know, Ric Flair, Stone Cold,
the
John
John
Cena's,
Cena,
like the Mount Rushmore, like those are maybe technically the correct answers
yeah.
when it comes to what kept wrestling, and Hulk
Money-
Hogan
the money-
when they're
yeah,
there, because
money.
Hulk Hogan being the first person on Sports Illustrated, the first wrestler on Sports Illustrated, and things like that.
To me, it's impossible. Hulk is the one guy you can't not have on your list.
Yeah.
He's the reason why wrestling is what it is today.
Yeah,
So,
without him, there wouldn't even be.
Yup.
whether you like him, don't like him,
Yeah.
he's responsible for everything.
Yep.
He's the boom that happened.
Totally, and if not for my personal love of the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk would have been in his space on that speed little one that I put you together for sure. But Devil, anything final from yourself, my friend?
Anything else you want to plug and talk about that you can talk about for this year?
Just check me out. Go to Amazon.com. Check out all my books on Amazon.com.
nice.
The new wrestling book will be out mid-July. Kiss Drummers is on there. Check me out on social media at Joey Casada across all platforms.
Absolutely, Joey. Thank you so much, my friend.
Brother.
It's always so great to
Thank
see
you
you
for having
and
me.
have a good
Yeah.
time.
Great to see you guys.
Fangs and Infernos, thank you guys so much. We got more coming out for you for New Jersey HorrorCon again tomorrow as well. But it's actually a wrap on Joey's weekend, so we again really appreciate his time. So we will see you guys real soon. He is the Devil. I'm Vampire. More importantly than that, he is Joey Casada. Horns up. Fangs out. All right, there, Fangs and Infernos. We got one more coming up right here at New Jersey HorrorCon for the Vampire and Devil podcast. We really, really appreciate his time. We're going to jump right into it. We're going to have a little bit of fun. Edward Furlong, thank you so much for having a little bit of time for us. We really appreciate your courtesies.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem.
Absolutely. First and foremost, how has New Jersey HorrorCon been treating you this weekend?
It's been great, dude. I always enjoy coming down and doing these, man. It's nice. I get to meet the fans and, feel special, I guess. People tell me I'm great, I guess, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, it's nice, man.
No, absolutely. And because there's also been so much stuff that myself as well as Devil have been like, movies that we just are very fond of and are very, very passionate to us. I had told you at a previous con how much I really, really loved your portrayal of Shane Casey on CSI New York. I was a really big fan of that series, and I really loved your character and that particular played out story, because it was also just very cool seeing your character broken up over a distance, because you weren't like 5 episodes in a row. You were broken out throughout
over a couple seasons,
over
right?
a couple of seasons with the character and the story arc.
Yeah, it was great. I remember like constantly being kind of called back for it. And I was like, oh shit! Like I said to you, I've never seen it, but I knew it was popular because they kept calling over, bringing it back, Shane Casey. So it was cool, man. It's always nice to. I don't know, man. Like when you're doing a show like that, it's fucking awesome. Craft service, and they got money on that shit, so it's nice, but it's done very fast, and it's cool, man. It's cool. Yeah.
And this has also been just a overall cool weekend setup as well, because another movie, of course, that myself and Devil are very fond of for you is Detroit Rock City, with Peter Criss here this weekend, as well as James DeBello. So it was a very, very cool little family affair for that movie.
Yes. Yeah. It's always me and Jimmy, we do a lot of these together. He's still a great friend of mine. Detroit Rock City is, it has legs on it, man. I mean, it didn't do great when it first came out, but it's become sort of like a cult classic, I guess, and it's between Terminator, History X, I'd say Detroit Rock City is like, another huge one that I people are always coming up to me about
Absolutely.
whatever. So,
For sure. Devil, my
Even
friend.
speaking of that, Tracy Lords, I'm a huge John Waters fan. I love Pecker. I love that movie. I'm a huge John Waters fan to begin with anyway.
awesome.
So it's like that. But I also like movies because we're in the horror movie. I love Brain Scan. Brain Scan is probably one of my favorite movies ever. I love that movie. Talk about
People love that shit, man. Yeah, Brain Scan. I know. Yeah. It's a trip.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. You know what? That's another one. I gotta kind of like maybe I'll show my kid or something. Man. It's like, when I did it, it seemed like a weird kind of movie, And it's called Brain Scan,
Yeah.
It's turned into this, and it's like, I remember reading this, The Trickster. But people love that shit.
Yeah.
And The Trickster, man, he looks cool as shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's just a cool looking character. I love the fact that he comes out rocking on Primus.
Yeah,
Yes.
Primus. Yeah, fucking yeah. He's a, I think that movie when I saw it, I think that was the first time that I actually. I guess I was a little behind, but I was like, "Oh, that sounds dope. What is this band?" And I was like, Primus. I love Primus. Actually, just saw him live probably several months ago. They still are awesome.
Yeah, they still kill it, man.
They still kill it. Yeah.
Because we also talked about Brain Scan on one of our episodes when we were doing a showdown based off video game-based horror movies, and Brain Scan was one of the movies we chose to talk about.
Yeah. I'd be down for that shit. That'd be so cool, man. To I don't know. I'd put a lot of other shit in my brain, so I'd be down for them to put some video games in there too,
Especially because that video game was like I said, that movie was so trippy because the whole time you think that you're legitimately killing people, then you find out it all wasn't, but then you see at the very end the dog running away with a foot, and it's like, well, maybe was it really not real or was it not real? You don't really know. It's really trippy.
Yeah. It was. It's kind of ahead of its time, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool,
and then
man.
like you said, obviously, talk about being in, working with Arnold Schwarzenegger and doing that Terminator 2, which I'm a huge fan of the original Terminator, but I think Terminator 2 is the better sequel.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm in it, so yeah, I agree. It's crazy. I hadn't seen Terminator 2 in I don't even know, 15, 16, something, a lot of years, man, almost 2 decades. And my son, who's 19, he's like, can we watch it? Because he's never seen it. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And we watched the first one, and then we watched the second one, and we're just both sitting there, and we're just like, fuck, this is a good movie.
Yeah.
God damn, man. And my son, who's 19, he's like, dude, this is amazing. It's like, I forget, and then also being able to step away from it and be, my age now, I could actually kind of watch it like an actual movie.
Yeah.
And, it's just such a iconic, Jim Cannon, it's a classic.
Oh, yeah.
It's just classic. So.
Especially seeing it now as, when you were filming it, obviously being a kid, and now seeing it as an adult, you have a different perspective of the movie versus when you're writing it.
Yeah, it's when you're in the movie, usually it kind of ruins the experience of watching the movie. So it's like it was sort of the first time I feel like I kind of was able to watch it as just a normal person.
Yeah.
It was great. I was far enough away from it.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the things we'd love to get your opinion on real quick, because it's a camp that kind of brought us in and some friendships that we've made, is you were in the late Shelley Duvall's final movie, Forest Hills. You had signed a copy for me. And we would love to hear just what you remember about the shooting of that movie and that just environment and scene, with Shelley in her final time.
I didn't work with Shelley.
Not directly.
Yeah.
I went there. I shot for a couple of days, and they went and shot some stuff with Shelley afterwards. But it was cool, man. I'm glad. That's awesome to be part of her. To be part of the Shelley Duvall, kind of canon, I guess. And yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I think she's awesome, dude. I think she's awesome, of course. You know, I mean, I grew up with, obviously, The Shining, Fairy Tale Theater,
Yep.
Yeah.
and
Popeye's the big
Popeye.
one.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was
Popeye's
gonna
the
say
big one.
Popeye olive oil.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's
Devil,
weird too, man, because I've read that there was a shit ton of coke going around that set, and so it kind of changes my. Because I don't know, when you see it now, you're like, oh, okay, I can maybe see that. But yeah. Anyway, that was a random thought. But anyway,
Absolutely. Devil, anything final from yourself, my friend?
I just want to, thank you for taking the time. And like I said, we're, huge fans. Thanks for making the movies that, like I said, not only just the big movies like Detroit Rock City, and stuff like that, like the American History X and Terminator. But like I said, I'm a huge fan of Brain Scan. I'm a huge John Waters fan. Just being from both for Peter Pecker. Just please, thank you for just giving us, all those years of entertainment and stuff like that.
Thank you so much.
I always love watching the films.
For sure.
rock and roll, man.
Edward, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Infernos. It's going to put a wrap on New Jersey HorrorCon for us. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us and showing so much love and support to the actors, actresses for continuing to put their products out to us. But we're always going to come back around. We always got great things for you. He's the Devil. I'm Vampire. But more importantly than that, he is Edward Furlong. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.
So much, guys.
Horns
Take
up.
care.
Fangs out. What's up there, Fangs and Infernos? As always, we really appreciate you guys being so cool and just rocking out with myself and the Devil with everything that we get to do. But that's enough about us, because the fact of the matter is we're secondary when it comes to all of this, because we love our awesome conversations, and we're going to take a trip down to Tromaville as we are hanging out with all of the originals from the Toxic Avenger. We've got Mitch, we've got Jennifer, we've got Mark, we've got Cindy, and we're going to have a great time right now. So first and foremost, thank you all so much for giving us a little bit of your time and hanging out with myself and the Devil.
We're so excited.
Yes, and I've never met the Devil before, so I'm very honored.
I'm not the devil. I'm just a devil. Everybody always mixes me up with that.
Semantics.
Not that one, but I'm a devil.
Okay, all right. So I'm still not meeting the Devil, and maybe I should be happy.
Yeah, you're all right.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like Santa Claus. If you ever really know whether you are or aren't meeting the Santa Claus or just one of his
It's like a
minions,
Santa
or
Claus.
it's
Okay.
a Santa guy. Because I mean, we have a Santa, over there in Daniel Roebuck from the Terrifier series. So there always seems to be a Santa around.
Yeah, we're meeting a minion.
Exactly, for sure. But again, so first and foremost, the Devil and I got to see you recently at another con, but we're hanging out at New Jersey HorrorCon now. And so
HorrorCon
far,
Go,
how
yeah.
has the con been treating everyone?
It's exciting. We love all the fans. People have come from all over the country. We had people from North Carolina. They brought their kids. It was really exciting. Yeah. So
Just the kids dressed up as
Adorable.
Toxie
Yeah.
and
I've seen
and
the little Toxie.
Melvin.
That was awesome.
The wigs and the head the Toxie headpiece. I mean, it was really amazing. But aside from that, there's just been a lot of kids and a lot of friendly folk. A lot of fans, awesome fans. We wouldn't be here without y'all.
That's the little 8-year-old said I'm his favorite actor. So
That's awesome.
that made my day. Made my day.
You're my favorite actor too.
Yeah.
We had a family who planned to come to see us from January, and they drove 8 hours with 2 or 3 of their children.
Oh man.
And they brought us presents. We were like, thank you. It's so sweet. Pictures of us with their background and the 2 little children dressed and wearing the same T-shirt. Oh, and I have a correction. We are the Toxic Angels.
The Toxic
So
Angels.
2 angels outrise 1 devil. Just so you know.
That's right. Thank you.
Dangerous company there,
We're,
Devil.
we're
Just so
a,
you
we're
know.
a big, good team.
I'll say I'll back away from that one.
Because HorrorCons in New Jersey, we had some fans that actually went to the sites where we shot most of the movie.
Oh, nice.
Before they came here.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really interesting.
I'm in a new movie called Infernal, and it actually has the real devil.
Oh,
So look for that.
No,
And he looks a lot more devilish than
More
you
devilish
do.
than me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So one of the things that we have to touch base real quick on too, for anybody who's familiar with the Toxic Avengers, of course it's a very very lovey experience right now. But Melvin, there are a couple of people that have been a little rough on you in the past, but it seems like you guys have potentially buried some hatchets.
Yeah, they've all been rough on me, except for my alter ego, Mitch.
Yeah.
When he keeps me around so that we keep everybody under control.
Right. We have this room in the background, and it's been very lucrative on the intimacy circle.
Nice.
So we've all been in there. It's been very loving. We love each other.
I haven't been in there.
That you
We're
know.
working on that, but it's very
What
cherished.
do you mean?
Deborah, when you edit this, you might have to potentially watch for some things there.
Yeah, there
Like
you go.
Mark's spilling a little bit of the
Spilling
info
the tea.
potential,
I
spilling the
It
tea a
hasn't
little bit.
changed since 1983.
Yeah.
It's the same guy.
And how do you know that?
Maybe there was a reason the girls weren't so nice to him back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe he might have been overstepping his bounds a
Maybe
little
it was
bit there.
just me and Mitch in that room.
Well, we've been in the room together on many occasions.
Yes.
You're my alter ego.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And before I kick it over to Devil and let him take it away, the next question, just in this final segment, is when you look back at that movie and the casting of that film, how do you remember the conversations with Lloyd going, for the parts you ended up portraying?
Lloyd is always very, very nice to the actors on set. He was always very much professional with us, kind, walked it through with us, let us create on our own. You guys feel the same, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it was a great experience for us with him.
How do you remember the casting just going? Was it like a casting call?
It was a casting call, yeah. I mean, we were all kind of in the same boat. We were just starting out, and we wanted to get a role. And I got called in a casting call, asked me to play a creature. So you know how that goes. You have to figure that out.
Absolutely, for sure.
But yeah, that's how we all got in.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the first Turn On, which was a movie they made before Toxic Avenger, so I didn't have to audition. They just called me up and asked if I wanted the part.
You were a shoo-in.
I was a shoo-in, and I said yes, I will do it. Please
Yeah, she
don't pay
paid to
me.
do it, right?
I said,
Please don't pay me. I don't need money.
Because that's not the trauma way.
No, never the trauma away.
And that's the thing about it too, is a movie that's been out, for 30 years or something like that, with such a different generation of people. You talk about, you have the young kids coming in and liking that. Talk about a movie such like that having such a great span, and that fans that are still just rabid about the Toxic Avenger movie, and just that movie is still, you watch it now, it's still just amazing now to watch it as it was back then.
It really is. I mean, it moves really well. It's edited really well. The music fits it. There's all this crazy death stuff. I mean, the stuff in the taco place.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of the death stuff in there. I mean, it's really fun.
That's the one scene that that Mrs. Vamp is never stoked on me for when we watch that movie, is anything involving the dog.
Yes, the dog. I'm upset about the dog.
So she wasn't as upset about it running over the child's head as the
No,
dog, right?
yeah, the kid was, he had it
felt
coming.
similarly, right?
Or stuffing the little old lady into the cleaner.
Nope.
Yeah.
No,
The head
that's
crushing scene, nothing.
No, totally fine. Comes with the territory.
But you shoot a dog.
Yeah.
Horrible people.
Horrible.
They're only on a level of bad for other
Yes.
things, but an
Yes.
animal, horrible.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that I'm enjoying Lloyd Kaufman even more now because he's so vibrant. He's showing that you can do this at any age, at any time, be creative. I just interviewed him 2 or 3 weeks ago on the Cynthia Mannion show, so you can catch that. I think it's episode number 118. And he is out there doing it. You see his face, and he's inspiring people. His, I want to call her a leader, a helper, who started when she was 21, maybe, and she's still with him. Her name is Sabrina, and she's like his handler now. Okay. But she came in for the magic of doing it yourself and all the tricks. So now she's a producer and editor, and she's editing Lloyd Kaufman's new movie. It's noir, and he says it's his best work ever. So catch that on the Cynthia Manning show and get a little of the inside dirt.
Absolutely. I mean, Devil, you have a cool story with Lloyd yourself from when you were comparing him to another famous director.
A friend of mine in Pittsburgh had a video store, Credible Exchange Video, and they brought Lloyd Kaufman on. He was the first person. He's like, he hasn't really done this kind of stuff. So he's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. And I was like, well, first thing I'm going to tell you, you're my generation's version of Ed Wood. And he was like, that is the greatest compliment I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm like, you are, because you were making movies that you know are not everybody's cup of tea. They're cheesy. They're kind of like that. Ed Wood didn't give a fuck about those movies. He made those movies. He knew they were low budget. He knew they were kooky. He knew it was not everybody's taste test of tea. And that's what I love about Lloyd Kaufman. And like I said, working with him, he's such a great honor and stuff like that with all that stuff. But yeah, he was like, dude, that's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. Because like I said, I'm like, you're my generation's Ed Wood.
Absolutely. I mean, he
It was the prettiest, ugliest compliment.
Yeah. He enjoyed pushing every button.
Oh, yeah.
And there's something in that. I'm a huge horror fan, and I have been since I was a kid. I started watching the Hammer productions, the old vampire films, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And I
brethren.
I started stepping into stage a lot, and I want to do the horror stuff on stage because it's very it's very theatrical, and I think it'll be beautiful.
Absolutely. I mean, Cindy, you do so much with your, being an author and, your books, and, you're making an appearance at another con later this year that's very much involved in books as well. So when it comes down to sitting down and writing, putting things fully into script in a word form, how do you look at that and that kind of an outlet?
I'm working on several projects, and I actually look at my end, what I want at the end, and then I figure out who I'm speaking to as my audience, and then I start at the beginning and I make little, like 4 pillars of what I want it to be, and then I start in this little piece, and then I get an idea for that little piece, so I stick it in there, and then I realize that doesn't work, and I move it, and then I have someone read it and go, oh, I love that part. Oh, that part had the magic. Let me work on that. And before you know it, we got a story.
Absolutely, for sure. And of course, Mark and Mitch, what can you tell us also about what's going on with you this year?
So, moving forward, we're going to be at FrankenCon in June, right? And we're going to have some other creative projects coming up. We're not allowed to talk about them, but you'll see some stuff.
Oh, nice. I'm in Poultry Guys, which is it's almost finished if it's not finished, because it's going to premiere at the movie theater, the outdoor movie theater.
Mahoney.
Yeah. So I haven't seen it yet, but I'm excited to see it. And I get my brains.
He's a staple.
I get my brains eaten out by chickens. So
nice. And Jennifer, you and I had a conversation at Creature Feature as being also members of the Coloring Book Club, and that your on-screen boyfriend in The Toxic Avenger kind of got you into the coloring book world there.
Yes, Robert Slug. Yep. Yeah, he started that. That was my first husband, and I'll give him that credit. He started the ball rolling with painting pictures on oneself, and it's just so refreshing to do that and think about what kind of artwork you can put on yourself, and literally put your heart on your sleeves, which I've done.
Yeah.
And I love the work that I have on myself.
And I mean, The Toxic Avenger itself, as well, has made its way onto many a skin in general.
Yes.
So you guys all being involved in that movie and having somebody dedicating it to something they see every day has always got to feel so great for the work.
And we love you, but we got a line waiting, so we got to go.
No, 100%. We have definitely been queued for sure. We love you so much. Fangs and Infernos, thank you guys so much. We're going to let The Toxic Avenger go back. Take care. Come out, support. Horns up. Fangs out.